Ezekiel, like Jeremiah, is about the end of Israel's world. It's about the destruction of Jerusalem. That meant the end of everything for the Jew. And it's typical of the end of our world. So the book is very relevant for us. Here is the story of a nation that, because of its slackness morally and its materialism and its idolatry, invited the corrective judgments of God. And they came. And parents ate their children, and children ate their parents when Jerusalem was besieged. And we find Jeremiah writing an elegy over the grave of Jerusalem, a book called Lamentations, which is a little mirror of how Christ would feel as he looked at a sinful world, dead in trespasses and sins, that would bring him into the dust of death. Now, this book, Ezekiel, it's going to tell us about the destruction of Jerusalem, but it offers hope. We notice in the book of Lamentations that in the centre chapter, it referred to hope over and over again. It's the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. Great is thy faithfulness. His mercies are new every morning. It's good that a man should hope. 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 So there's a funeral song about hope. And in Ezekiel, we'll find that after the destruction of Jerusalem, the end of their world, which prefigures the end of our world, he offers hope. And we find a story of resurrection. And then we find a story of a new Jerusalem, which is copied in the book of Revelation, about how there'll be a new heavens and a new earth, and God will wipe away all tears. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God and the Lamb are the temple thereof. Beautiful pictures. So these are a few of the things we must keep in mind as we approach a book that the Jews were forbidden to read until maturity. It is a difficult book. We get a hint in the first chapter where he has a vision of the throne of God, but it's only a vision. It used the word like, L-I-K-E, about a dozen times to tell us this is symbols. This is symbols. After that picture of the throne of God, Ezekiel is warned about what he's got to do. Would you look with me, please, in chapter 2, verse 3. God says to him, Son of man, I'm sending you to the Israelites, to a rebellious nation that's rebelled against me. They and their fathers have been revolt against me to this very day. People whom I'm sending you are obstinate and stubborn. Verse 5 says, they're a rebellious house. They were very religious. This is a reminder that most religion's bad. I do understand why so many people hate religion. Most religion is bad. Unless religion majors in its presentation of the love and mercy of God, unless religion sees our chief duty to look to God and become like him, to be kind and compassionate, true and honest, unless that's our religion, it's not worth anything. So here, the prophet is sent to religious people and he's told about them they're a bad lot. And that fits most religious people. Look at the 3rd chapter. The end of verse 7, the whole house of Israel is hardened and obstinate. Look at the end of that chapter. They're a rebellious house. And then the 4th chapter tells about him making a play, taking a clay tablet and picturing the siege that's coming. Look at chapter 5 as an illustration of one of the literary approaches in this book. Chapter 5, Ezekiel. Now, son of man, take a sharp sword, use it as a barber's razor to shave your head and your beard. Then take a set of scales and divide up the hair. When the days of your siege come to an end, burn a third of the hair with fire inside the city. Take a third and strike it with the sword all around the city. Scatter a third to the wind, for I'll pursue them with drawn sword. And then the rest of the chapter explains that this is an image of what is soon to happen in the siege of Jerusalem and the destiny of its inhabitants. Would you look now, please, chapter 7, verse 5. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Disaster, an unheard of disaster is coming. The end has come. The end has come. It has roused itself against you. It has come. Doom has come upon you, you who dwell in the land. Look at verse 10. The day is here. It has come. Doom has burst forth. The rod has budded. Arrogance has blossomed. Violence has grown into a rod to punish wickedness. None of the people will be left. None of that crowd. No wealth. Nothing of value. You know, for a long time, particularly since the middle of the last century, Christians have emphasised those parts of the Bible that foretell the end of the world. And at first the world scoffed, but the scoffing stopped in 1914. You remember that when Titanic was launched, the world saw the Titanic as a symbol of the inevitability of progress, that the whole world was going to become like the Titanic, unsinkable. And an old lady said to a sailor on the ship, "Is it true? Is it true, my man, that this ship can't sink?" And his reply was, "Madam, God himself can't sink this ship." Well, that's around 1910. But 4 years later, because a chauffeur took a wrong turn, there was an assassination which precipitated World War I. You ever thought of what would have happened if certain things would be a little different? Suppose Adolf Hitler's blindness had been permanent instead of temporary, World War I. Suppose that brave corporal, and he was very brave, he got 2 Iron Crosses. Suppose in his bravery he'd died. Suppose any one of the 40 assassination attempts of Hitler had succeeded. Suppose Kaiser Wilhelm had died before 1914. He had a very serious health problem. Suppose he died earlier. What would have happened? Big doors swing on little hinges. Unless there is an overruling providence that turns tragedy into tuition, the world is just an unhelpable mess. World War I, Holocaust, World War II, 60 minor wars. After colonialism in places like Africa and the Dutch islands and many other places, we would have expected things would be better, but the new native rulers that took over in Africa just all became dictators, like Idi Amin, murderers.